Hi, I'm Erin with Five Parks Yoga. Thank you so much for joining me for class today. Today's class is a yoga class for complete beginners. So this is perfect for you if you've never practiced yoga, and it's going to have a lot of information and alignment cues, and it's going to move real slow. We are going to be doing some standing postures, but we'll start with a nice spinal warm-up and a cool down at the end. So if you enjoy this class, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. I post classes frequently and have a lot of classes that are already there for you to choose from. This class is going to include some common standing postures with a lot of alignment cues and information, but we are going to start today in a seated position. At the beginning of hopefully every yoga class you practice, you're going to do some sort of spine warm-up. So today we're going to do our spinal warm-up from a seated position. If you do have tight hips or are uncomfortable in a cross-legged position, you can find another position to sit in. You can come onto your shins. If you do have props like blocks or something that looks like a block in your home, a block is also a great place to prop yourself up on so it eases your hips a little bit more. So you can just sit up on a block, or maybe it's some books. And we're going to start warming up the spine from the top down. So we'll start with some neck rolls. And before we even begin to move our body, we're going to take a couple of real intentional, long and slow, deep breaths. So at the heart of all yoga practices is the practice of breathing. So we're just going to do some deep belly breathing to begin with. Once you're in a comfortable seated position, try to find a tall spine. So as much as you can, get your shoulders over your hips and reach up through the crown of your head. Rest your hands anywhere that's comfortable. They can be in your lap, they can be on your knees, they can be face down, face up, whatever's comfortable for you. And once you're settled, and if you feel comfortable, go ahead and close your eyes. This can just bring your focus from external to a little more internal. Start off by just relaxing your jaw, relaxing your forehead, your entire face. Relax your shoulders down away from your ears. We're going to take a deep breath in through our nose. And when you're ready, let it go through your mouth. Close your lips and begin to breathe in and out through your nose. Breathe deeply in, and then bring your air all the way down to your low belly. Let your low belly expand as you inhale and contract as you exhale. This might not even be noticeable, but feel it in your body. And just feel your body relaxing and preparing for your physical practice. And take one more breath here. And feel free to open your eyes. Continue with your long, deep, slow, steady inhales and exhales. And we're going to warm up with some neck rolls. So as you breathe in, really lengthen and lift. And as you breathe out, bring your ear to your shoulder, your chin to your chest, and then just go around either in a half circle or a full circle, all the way up and over. If that is too much strain on your neck, just kind of rock your head side to side. If you're taking full neck rolls, take one more in this direction, and then pause and switch directions. So go up and around. And then just do one more in that direction if you're doing full neck rolls. And then just come back to a neutral spine. All right, so we're gonna warm up the spine side to side now. So on your next breath in, lift your arms up overhead. And first you're gonna come off to the left. So you're gonna take your left hand down towards your mat and just reach your right arm up and across. So even if it's not a very deep side bend, try to keep your shoulder in line with your hip versus collapsing forward and reaching further. So even if you're just lifting straight up to the ceiling, I want you to feel a stretch down your right side. And then come back to center and switch sides. So you're gonna take your right hand to your mat, towards your mat, and reach your left arm up and maybe across. Keep your shoulder in line with your hip. So try to avoid slouching forward so you can reach further, and instead stay lifted and feel the stretch down the left side of your body. And just kind of push off your mat there, come back all the way up. So reach both arms up overhead. Now you're gonna twist the spine. So take your right hand to your left knee, so across your body, and take your left hand out behind you. Again, trying to keep your shoulders over your hips. So even if your twist isn't very deep, try to avoid rounding so that you can twist further. All right, so stay lifted, even if your twist is just this much. Maybe you can start looking out over your shoulder. And are you still breathing? All right, so reach your arms back up overhead so you can just breathe deeply in, expanding your lungs, stretching up. And let's twist in the opposite direction. So now bring your left hand to your right knee and your right hand out behind. If you don't reach your knee, that's fine. If you're just going this deep, that's fine. So avoiding this so that you can twist deeper, and instead working on your posture, keeping your spine nice and long and your shoulders over your hips as you twist. Breathe in through your nose and out through your nose. Okay, now you're gonna come back to center and once again, lift your arms up overhead. Expand your lungs, breathe in deeply. Exhale, release your hands back to the earth. Okay, we're gonna take a little bit of a hinge from our hips now. So walk your hands out in front of you. And again, instead of rounding so that you can come closer to the floor, can you stay upright and then just walk your hands as far as you can. So maybe it's 1 step, 2 steps, maybe it's 5 steps. Feeling a nice stretch in your hips and your low back. Breathing here. And no matter how deep you are in your fold, just walk your hands back up all the way until your head is right back up over your shoulders and over your hips. We're gonna take a very gentle chest expansion, so opening the front of the body. Now take both hands and place them behind your hips. You can tent your fingers, okay, so you have a little more height here, or you can place them flat on the floor, but let's start by tenting our fingers. You're going to just start to press your ribs forward, lift your chest up, and then lift your gaze. And just feel this opening across the front of your chest. Feel the opening in your throat as you lift your chin. Breathing deeply, expanding your lungs, expanding your rib cage, and then just come back. So we're gonna do one more warm up for the spine down on our mats. So come into a tabletop position. If you have any sensitivity in the knees, you can always place your knees on something soft or double up your mat. And then bring your feet flat to the floor. Position your shoulders over your wrists, and you're gonna spread your fingers wide. Position your hips over your knees, and position your ankles in line with your knees as well. So nice flat back here. Our last part of our spinal warm-up is a movement that goes from opening the chest to opening the upper back. So these are called cats and cows. So we're gonna start with cow pose. So for cow pose, you're just gonna drop your belly down, start to tilt your tailbone up, and then lift through the crown of your head. So you're opening the front of your body, a little arch in your spine. Okay, so we're gonna move from cow pose to cat pose. So picture a Halloween cat as you move into this position. So for cat pose, you're gonna now tilt your tailbone back down towards your mat, and you're gonna start to round your upper back and take your gaze towards your belly button. So you should feel a stretch in the back of your neck, your upper back, of course, and this nice opening in your low back as you round it. So let's move back and forth between cat and cow. So take a deep breath in and come back to cow pose. So drop your belly, tilt your tailbone, lift the crown of your head, and round into cat pose like a Halloween cat. So look towards your belly button. And let's do that one more time. So come into cow pose, big breath in, and come into cat pose, big breath out. All right, come back to a tabletop position. So flat back. And from here, we're gonna move into a very common yoga pose called downward facing dog. So this is a great place to get into your downward facing dog from. You're gonna tuck all 10 of your toes under. Keep your fingers spread nice and wide and your hands right in line with your shoulders. So you don't need to adjust your hands from this place. Start to lift your knees up off the mat and begin to lift your tailbone up toward the ceiling and slowly straighten your legs. Now, if your legs stay this bent today, that's absolutely fine. You can start releasing your heels down toward the mat. So you're just moving in this direction. Now from here, shake out your head so you can make sure that you're not holding any tension in your neck. And then just take a quick peek at your hands. So make sure you're not clawing your mat. Make sure that your middle fingers are pointing toward the front of your mat and that you're pressing into your hands. And then once again, peek back at your feet and make sure that your heels are disappearing behind your toes. So you don't want to have your feet in a V position or your ankles or your heels splaying out into like a pigeon-toed position. So right in line. And just take one more breath here as you settle into your downward facing dog position. So if you can visualize yourself in your mind, you want to be like an upside down V, working in the direction of a nice long spine and nice long legs. Again, knees can be as bent as needed as you open up the backs of your legs. And then go ahead and look back towards your hands and just start to walk your feet forward, as many steps as you need to. Keep your legs bent. And we're gonna come into a position called Ragdoll. So again, maybe visualize a nice floppy ragdoll. So you're not real strong in your legs or your arms, you're really just hanging and resting your torso on the tops of your legs. Now, again, if you have blocks or if you need something down below your hands for a little more support. Feel free to use a prop to support you if you feel like your hamstrings are really tight or your low back is really tight. If you feel, comfortable dangling here, you can even take your opposite hand to opposite elbow and just let your arms hang. So in Ragdoll pose, we're more focused on the length of the spine versus the length in the backs of the legs. This is why it's a bent-legged position versus a standing forward fold where we're working on lengthening the backs of our legs. All right, release your hands down if they aren't already, and then just bring your feet together. So touch your big toes together and keep a tiny little bit of space between your heels. And then very slowly, avoiding a head rush, go ahead and just roll up, keeping your legs bent all the way up to standing. Okay, so that downward dog and that ragdoll, we were kind of upside down for a little while, so we want to come up to standing slowly. All right, once we're in a standing position, we want to come into a posture called mountain pose. So in mountain pose, you're going to have your feet at hip distance apart. You're going to spread your toes nice and wide, creating a solid foundation. You can go ahead and start to reach the crown of your head up toward the ceiling. So you're standing tall, but then relax your shoulders down away from your ears. Tighten up through your legs, so lifting your kneecaps to engage your quadriceps, your thigh muscles, and then reach your arms alongside your body down toward your mat. So spin your palms so they're facing forward and your fingers are nice and active and spread wide. Okay, so this is mountain pose. On your next big breath in, just like we did in our warm-up, lift your arms up overhead. So expanding your ribs, expanding your lungs, stretching tall. And then from here, let's take a cactus of the arms. So imagine a cactus. You're gonna draw your elbows down, so expanding through your chest. And then if you're not feeling dizzy or anything and you have a little bit of balance here, you can lift your gaze up. So this is a nice chest expansion. Now come back to tall mountain, arms straight up overhead. And from this position, we're gonna come all the way back to standing forward fold. So you can bring your hands either through your heart or you can sweep them off to the side, and you're gonna hinge from your hips, come all the way down. Again, using blocks if you'd like. So in standing forward fold versus ragdoll, like I already mentioned, we're working toward lengthening the hamstrings, the backs of the legs. So it's fine if your legs are not straight yet, but in this posture, you're actually gonna work in that direction. So working the legs toward a straighter position. You can bring your head down toward your mat, so you're looking back at the back of your mat. Take another breath here. All right, the next posture we're gonna take is a halfway lift, or sometimes it's called monkey pose. So in this posture, we want a nice flat back. Again, utilizing your blocks if you have them. You can come up so that your head is in alignment with your tailbone. So your back is flat. Hands either on your blocks, or if you don't have blocks, you can have your hands on your shins or even your thighs. And again, if your legs are bent, that's absolutely fine. Okay, we're just working toward a flat back here. And then make your way back to a standing forward fold. So coming from your flat back, so that the crown of your head is coming down towards your mat and you're looking back at the back of your mat. Come up to your halfway lift again. So extending your spine long, reaching through the crown of your head. And from here, come all the way back up to tall mountain. Reach your arms up overhead. And then bring your hands to your heart. Take a big breath in here. And bring your arms to mountain pose. All right, we're gonna move into a couple of common standing postures. So from here, standing at the front of your mat, we're gonna start with warrior one pose. So we're gonna keep our right leg forward. You're gonna step your left leg back. Bring your feet so that they're in line with your hips. So they're not one in front of the other, but instead, some people use the visualization of like they're on train tracks. All right, so they're in line with your hips. Your right foot is facing forward with your heel directly behind your toes, and your left foot is coming in at a slight angle, about 45 degrees, but a slight angle. Now, as you bring your back toes in, you want to make sure that you're not rolling off the outer edge of your back foot, but instead you're pressing it down so your foot stays flat on the floor. Try to avoid crunching your yoga mat with your toes and instead spread them out nice and wide. And then from this position in your legs, you want to start facing your hips forward toward the front of your mat. So you can take your hands onto your own hips and start drawing your right hip back and your left hip forward. As you do this, see if you can keep the outer edge of your back foot on the mat. So instead of letting it roll off as you move forward, press it down, okay? And then you're gonna take your shoulders and face them forward to the front of your mat as well. You can even put your hands on your shoulders so you can feel them squaring toward the front of your mat. Okay, now you're gonna lift both arms up overhead. As you reach through your fingertips, try to avoid crunching your shoulders up by your ears and instead draw your shoulder blades down your back, so shoulders away from your ears. And one last cue before we come into the final version of the posture. With your hands in all of your yoga poses, try and avoid these kinds of hands and instead find active hands. So spreading your fingers nice and wide, palms flat, so reaching up overhead. From here, the last part of warrior one is to lunge into your front leg. Now, you're gonna wanna adjust your stance. So I didn't tell you how really far to walk your foot back because it depends on your height and your strength and flexibility. So it's gonna be different for everyone. So as you lunge into your front knee, if your stance is like this and your knee is coming past your ankle, step your foot further forward. So as you lunge, your knee is gonna come directly over your ankle. Make any adjustments to make that happen. So standing here, holding this just for a couple of breaths once you're fully in the posture. Warrior one. Bring your hands to your heart and then just step your left foot forward. Okay, so we're gonna do warrior one on the other side. I'm gonna walk you through the same cues, all right? So left foot stays forward, right foot steps back. Now, again, you're gonna adjust your stance when you come into your lunge. Try to get your feet, imagine railroad tracks, so not one in front of the other, but in line with your hips. Press the outer edge of your back, your right foot, into your mat. Take your hands to your hips and square your hips. So start to pull your left hip back and your right hip forward without having your foot peel off the floor. Take your shoulders and square them to the front of the mat as well. Nice strong back leg here. Lift your arms up overhead. Pull your shoulders down away from your ears, nice active hands, and then lunge into your front leg. All right, so knee does not come past your ankle. Make an adjustment if you need to. As you lunge deeper, maybe slide your foot up more. Hold warrior one on your left side for a couple of breaths. So just feel what's happening in your body. Make sure that your breath is flowing smoothly. Bring your hands to your heart. Step your right foot to meet your left. Take a breath here. All right, so the next pose we're gonna do is warrior two. So we're gonna start on our right leg again. Your right foot is gonna stay right where it is, and you're gonna step your left foot back. Most likely in warrior two, your stance will be a little bit longer because your hips are gonna be open to the side. So step your left foot back. Now, unlike warrior one, in warrior two, we're working toward alignment of your front heel with the arch of your back foot. So it's not railroad tracks anymore. Your right toes are directly in front of your right heel, and your left foot, like warrior one, is at about a 45-degree angle, okay? Firm your toes on your mat, so make sure every single toe is touching and spread wide. Now in this pose, we're turning our hips to the side, opening to the side versus to the front. So you can take your hands on your hips, drawing your left hip back, your right hip in line with your left, and working toward keeping level hips. So if you feel like your right hip is jutting out or your left hip is jutting out, try to keep your hips in line with one another. Next, for the arm, and your shoulders are also open to the side, which will naturally happen as you open your hips to the side. Next part is your arms. They're gonna be parallel with your mat. You can look at both arms to make sure that they're parallel with your mat. So oftentimes, the gaze will ultimately be out toward your front fingertips, and then the left arm will kind of come down. So check in with that. And then don't forget about your hands. So spread your fingers nice and wide. These are not warrior two hands, these are. Last but not least, we're gonna lunge. So you're gonna bend your right leg, bring it directly over your right ankle. So again, depending on your height, your flexibility in your hips, you can adjust your stance. So if your stance is like this, your knee is coming out, take your foot forward or slide your left foot back. And then gaze out across your front fingertips. This is a very powerful strength building pose. And you're also gaining flexibility in your hips, strength in your legs, strength in your arms. Okay, bring your hands to your heart. Big step forward to the front of your mat. So now we're gonna take warrior two on the left side. And I'm actually not going to be facing you, but it could be a benefit for you to see the pose from the other side. So you're gonna keep your left foot at the front of your mat, and you're gonna step your right foot way back. All right, now remember, it's heel to arch alignment versus railroad tracks, warrior one, heel to arch alignment. So check in, peek down at your feet. Left toes right in front of your left heel, right toes coming in at a slight angle. If it's too much on your ankle, and I didn't say this before, you can bring your foot a little more parallel to the back of your mat, okay, versus bringing your toes in. But that's kind of what we're working toward. Take your hands to your hips, open your hips to the side. Your shoulders will follow suit, but you want your shoulders open to the side as well. Bring your arms parallel to your mat. Check in with your back arm. Make sure it's not sagging. Make sure your shoulders aren't up by your ears, but they're relaxed down away from your ears. So your neck is long, shoulders relaxed, and then don't forget about your hands. Okay, last but not least, let's take the lunge. So bend your left leg, bring your knee right over your ankle, and then adjust your stance. Eventually you'll learn kind of what your natural step back or forward is, but as you are learning the pose, you just want to make these major or minor adjustments. So take the time to make the adjustment, and then check in with everything. Check in with your feet, your hips, your shoulders, your arms, and then take your gaze out across your front fingertips. Make sure you're not hunching your chin and shoulder together, but you're relaxed. A couple breaths here. Just really notice all parts of your body working, opening, maybe being challenged, holding your lunge. Okay, bring your hands to your heart. Take a big step forward, or as many steps as you need to. Just come back to the front of your mat. Okay, we're gonna do 2 more standing postures that you'll probably come across in a yoga class. So the next posture we're gonna do is called triangle pose. Again, if you have a prop, a block or a book or something, you might wanna have it available to you. As we move into the posture, you can just kind of set it on your mat. I'm gonna set mine right here for now. Let's start again on the right side. Keep your right foot right where it is. Take your left foot, step it way back. Okay, so this is going to be similar setup to Warrior 2. All right, so heel to arch alignment, right toes in front of your right heel, left foot either parallel to the back of your mat, but ultimately slightly angled, about 45 degrees. Press into the outer edge of your back, foot. Okay, hips open to the side, shoulders open to the side. And we're gonna start out with the same Warrior 2 arms. So bring your arms parallel to your mat, fingers spread wide. Check in here. All right, make sure that your legs are nice and engaged. So again, like I cued you earlier in class, lift your kneecap up so that your thigh gets nice and strong, your quadricep. Okay, and in triangle pose, instead of coming into our lunge, we're gonna keep our legs straight. Now, if your leg bends as you come into the pose, that's okay too. We're just working in the direction of a straight leg. So you're gonna reach your right arm forward, and you're gonna bring it down to your thigh, to your shin, to your block, maybe eventually to the floor. Your left arm is going to rise straight up to the ceiling, palm facing out, fingers spread wide. So no floppy hand, okay? So your triangle today may look like this. It may look like this. You can use your block for support. You can bend your knee if you need to. We're just working in this direction. Okay, so wherever your hand is, thigh, shin, block, floor, you're not collapsing your weight, okay, and then rounding your spine. If you don't go as deep into it, it's more important that you have this nice alignment in your spine. So you're staying engaged in your core, lifted, nice and strong and steady. The alignment is more important than the depth, okay? So you don't want to just reach your hand to the floor for the sake of it. All right, so come back up first. You can take your hands to your heart and step your left foot to the front of your mat. Okay, so same thing, I'm gonna be facing away from you, but you can see the pose from the other side. So same thing on this side. Keep your left foot at the front of your mat and step your right foot back. Back foot either parallel to the back of your mat, slightly angled in. Right foot, toes in front of your heel. Take your hands to your hips, open them to the side. Shoulders will follow, so shoulders open to the side. Engage your quadricep. Knee lifting up, leg nice and strong. Arms parallel to the earth, fingers spread wide. Okay, so start to reach your left arm forward and down. Remember, thigh, shin, ankle, block, floor, and then right arm up, straight up to the ceiling. Palm faces out, fingers spread wide, spine nice and long. Okay, alignment over depth. Depth will come with time as you gain strength and flexibility. But this triangle may be perfect. If your knee is bent, you can't get your leg all the way straight, that's fine as well. Just nice, long spine. If you're resting your hand on something, don't dump your weight there. So you're working your whole core to keep you lifted. And just hold the pose. Okay, bring your arms parallel to the earth, to your mat, to the floor. Bring your hands to your heart. Step your right foot to meet your left. All right, and the last standing pose we're gonna do in our class today is a standing straddle splits. So this is a great posture to help you open up your inner thighs, your hamstrings, and your back, all sorts of things, all right? So let's start with the right foot at the top of the mat. You can take your hands to your hips, and you're gonna step your left foot way back. And again, you're gonna end up adjusting your stance. So way back it's gonna be different for each one of you. Now in this pose, we're gonna take our toes and bring them all 10 in front of both heels. Now eventually you're gonna take a very slight kind of pigeon-toed expression here. Slight, all right? So no strain on the ankles or whatever. But you can start with feet, toes in line with heels, facing forward. All right? Straight legs right now, just so that you can find engagement in your legs. So lifting your kneecaps up, engaging your thighs, taking your hands to your hips. From here, we're gonna start to forward fold. This would be another great place, depending on your flexibility or what you have going on in your legs, to bring some props with you. All right, so you're gonna hinge from your hips and you're gonna come into a fold. So coming forward with straight legs and a straight spine, but it's okay if it doesn't look that way in the end, but this is what we're kind of working toward. In bringing your hands, thighs, shin, floor, blocks. All right, so it's okay if your legs are bent. It's okay if your spine rounds a little bit. In standing straddle splits, we are working in the direction of straight legs and a long spine. If you're not there yet, that is absolutely fine. This is the final expression of the pose though. So you can bring your hands underneath your shoulders and then relax the crown of your head, the top of your head, toward the floor. So trying not to hold any tension in your neck or shoulders. And you can continue to breathe deeply, wherever you are, whatever your expression of the pose is. So to avoid overstraining the backs of your legs, you want to keep the fronts of your legs engaged. So nice and strong, Even if your legs are bent a lot or just a little bit. Okay, so from wherever you are, whatever expression you're in right now, bring your hands back to your hips, bend your legs as much as you need to, and then come all the way back up to standing. All right, so go ahead and face your right toes toward the front of your mat, step your left foot to meet your right. And let's just close our standing practice with a couple of breaths in mountain pose, maybe closing your eyes and checking in with your balance. So coming back to mountain pose where we've already been, find a nice solid foundation in your feet, engaged legs, palms face out, arms nice and long and engaged. If you're not ready to close your eyes, if you feel it off balance in any way, just find a place to gaze at on the floor and keep your gaze steady. Can you work on those deep belly breaths like we did at the beginning of class as you stand here in mountain pose? If they're not already, open your eyes. And then let's make our way down onto our mat. We're going to close our practice on our backs with just a couple more postures that I'll talk you through. So come down onto your back with your legs bent. All right, so we're gonna take a spinal twist here, and I'm gonna give you a couple of different options. So you can pull your knees into your chest, just a loose squeeze here. It doesn't have to be a tight ball. And you can bring your knees over to the left. We'll start with the left. In a stacked position, okay? Or you can keep your feet flat on the floor and bring them to the edges of your mat, and you can rock your knees to the left, so they're in a staggered position. Or you can cross your right leg up and over your left, and then bring your legs to the left. There's lots of different twist variations, so whatever is suiting you today, take that variation. I am going to keep my legs stacked because it feels the most comfortable for me. So this is a twist in your spine. We are working in the direction of bringing our right shoulder back down onto the mat. If it's not there already, that's fine. Couple of arm variations. You can either bring your arms to a capital T position with your palms facing down, or you can bring them to a cactus position with your palms facing up. And you can look either up at the ceiling or toward the right. If you're comfortable, close your eyes and take a couple of breaths here. All right, now bring your knees back through center and we're gonna switch sides. So whatever variation you're in, bring your knees to the right. So either staggered, stacked, crossed, and then whatever arm variation you chose on the other side. T, cactus, working in the direction of pressing your left shoulder toward your mat. If it's not there already, that's fine. We're just working in that direction. And then gaze up at the ceiling or toward your left hand. If you're comfortable, close your eyes and take a couple deep breaths. Then bring your legs back towards center. You can give them just a little squeeze here. And then our final posture of class is Shavasana. So if you've never practiced Shavasana, it's hopefully going to be in every class that you ever attend. It's arguably one of the most important postures in yoga, and it translates in Sanskrit to corpse pose. So the idea in Shavasana is to become completely relaxed and completely still. It can be challenging in the beginning. So for Shavasana, you want to extend your legs long, bring them to about mat distance apart. It's going to be different for everybody, but you want to just let your feet fall open so they're just soft. Arms are going to rest alongside your body. If you have space, like take up space. They don't need to be touching your body, but they can just kind of come out. And unlike every posture that we have done today, now you get to relax your hands. So fingers are soft. Okay, so this is a soft pose. Your gaze is up at the ceiling, so the back of your head is resting heavy on your mat. Close your eyes. Relax your jaw and forehead. And then just take a scan of your body. So start at your toes. Relax your toes. Make sure your feet are falling open and relaxed. Legs are heavy. Torso is soft. Shoulders are relaxed. Arms are heavy and fingers are soft. Check in again with your face. And then last but not least, we get to just let go of our breathing practice. So let's close with a big breath in through our nose. Let it go through your mouth. And then instead of our deep belly breathing, just come back to the natural rhythm of your breath. So the breath that you would have if you were falling asleep. Soft. Easy. And then lie here in silence and stillness. So we're going to come out of this posture together, but Shavasana should be a posture that's enjoyed for a long period of time. So when you have the time, if you're practicing online, to stay in Shavasana, I highly recommend that you do. But to come out of Shavasana, you're just going to want to start bringing movement slowly back into your body, because it's in a state of relaxation and rest right now. So you can start by wiggling your fingers and your toes, just getting sensation back, and just rolling out your ankles and your wrists, and moving into like a big morning stretch. So reaching our arms up overhead, taking a deep breath in, and then roll onto your side. So you want to come out of this posture slowly. So you can roll onto your side first, and then use your hand for support as you press your way up to a seated position. And once we're in a seated position, we'll just close with the greeting of Namaste. So you can bring your hands to your heart. Thank you so much for joining me for class today. Today, as you go forward, may you have peace in your thoughts and peace in your words and peace in your heart. From my heart to yours. Namaste.